Hi everyone. Today I want to show you the AI SDR agent I built. What it does is simple. You send it a lead and it researches the company, it writes a personalized outreach message, it saves everything into HubSpot CRM, and then it creates a follow-up task for the sales rep on its own. No human touching anything and no any interference. So here is how I built it. So I'm going to show us the HubSpot platform now. So here I have my HubSpot, and you can create your custom property. So we have our custom property, the activation score, the agent status. So here it's already saying that I created this custom property which is created by me. So that's why it has my name. And these are the HubSpot property that is already at default on the platform. So I created 8 custom properties, and one of it is the research summary, the opener draft, the ICP fit score. So these are one of the properties that I create, and one of them also is the agent status and also the campaign ID. So basically, how do you create it? You let's come to home, and then you can come to this space. So you go to your data management. So we have our data management. Come to the properties. So under properties, you can select. So you can select what types of objects, because HubSpot deals with objects, and here you have different objects. You have the deal, you have the companies, you have the contact. So here we are in the contact. So here is the contact property section. Select the contact, and these are the properties inside the contact object. And there are some contact properties that comes from HubSpot, and you can also decide to create your own custom object. So here is the one that I create myself. So I'm just going to show you how to create it. I'm not going to create it again because I already created the object that I need. So here you can say edit more options. So you can just say your name. So here, because it does already have a property called name, so you can't create it. I'll just say agent lead. So this is how you create it. The contact type, you give it the object type we want to give it. Do you want to store it inside the contact, company, or deal? So either of the objects that you want. So, and then which group, is that contact information or email information, depends. And also it adds the field type. So this is telling you what kind of data that you want to receive for that particular property that you are creating. So you want to receive a single line text, number, phone number. So here is how you create your custom property. So I can discard this, and here now, so I'm going to show you the deal pipeline. So we also have our deal pipeline. So this deal pipeline is where you create your deals and you create your stages, and so this pipeline is basically a series of stages where a particular deal moves on and on from one stages to another. So here I'm going to go to the objects. I'm going to move to the deals. So here we have our deals. Still the same under the data management. So here we can have the setup. So I'm going to go to the pipeline section. Here you can see I created a prospect intake. So this prospect intake has 5 stages. And once we click on the stages, we have new. That is when a lead just comes in. So it moves to the new. Then when it's researched, we move the particular stage to researched, and then we move it to qualified. So here is just a series of stages inside this pipeline. So if you want to create it, let's just go back. Let's go back to our pipeline. So let's say you want to create a random pipeline. Let's say work activity. So you can decide to create a work activity. You want to, so inside that work activity pipeline, you want to give it different kind of stages inside that work activity pipeline. So you can say just starting and already working. So these are just like a stages inside that particular pipeline. You want to keep track of it. So this is how you create your pipeline, and I'm going to leave that at that point. So you can just decide to delete it since we don't want to use that. So here is our pipeline, our prospect intake. So this is telling us the type of pipeline in which this particular object is going to do. So prospect intake, any new lead that we get is going to move from the new stage to the research to the qualified to the meeting booked and hands off. So that is the flow for this. Now the fun part is here, I'm going to now run a test with a fake lead, and we are going to see how the data is going to send. So I'm going to send a fake lead and it's going to pass through. So this data is going to be sent through the webhook, and this webhook will send the data through the node. So we are going to see what is going to happen. So let me show us the data. So let me execute this. So I'm going to execute, and going to come to my Postman. So here we are using our Postman to test the fake lead. So here you can, so just a simulation of what we are going to do when it's deployed. So here we have our email, we have first name, the last name, the company domain, the job title, the lead source, and the campaign ID. So that is what we do. So I'm going to send this request now. Our workflow is already running, and once I send it, and we watch what is going to happen. So here, and voila. So that is the completion of this execution. So now the leads has come in from the webhook. It's checked the campaign from the Superbase table, and then it also checked the data. So I'm going to show you how this comes in. So here we have our webhook that comes in from the Postman that we simulate with. So we have our body request, the data. It comes in, and we use our set field to normalize the data. So we normalize the data to exclude the data that we don't need. So these are the data that we need. That's why we are using the set field. So basically that's one of the things you can use for set node. And then we have our Superbase. So here we are searching by this particular campaign, camp SaaS tool 01. So here in our Superbase, we have a campaign. So we have a campaign. So inside it, you will see the campaign. Still loading. So here you see the ID, which is it. So it's search. You can see it returns the data for us, the client's name, the ICP definition, the company, the campaign angle. So after that, we are searching the contact. So we are using the email that was passed to us to search the contact, which is the joe@gmail.com. So once we do that, once we find the contact, if there is no contact, so this is if statement. If any contact is not found, we are creating a new contact. And if the contact is found, we just set them to the ID. So here we are having the ID. So you can see it comes from this place because the contact, it does not exist before. So that is why it creates a new contact, and then it sends the data to this place. So we have our contact ID, and after that we have our AI agent, which is the SDR research agent. This SDR research agent, we have our chat model, which basically loop for each of the data that is read. So this AI, the chat model, which is the agent brain, is the one that do the loop it's going to read your system messages, So here we have our system message, which is more of like a detail of what the system should do, and it's also going to read the user message. This user message is more of like the lead data. It's going to read the lead data alongside the system message, and it's going to use that to loop through each of the tools. And here now, inside this tool here, we are using a sub workflow. Basically, we want to be able to modularize our workflow and not congest it with such a long workflow that is not readable. So that is why we use this sub workflow, and each of it is going to loop through each of the sub workflow using the system message and also the user message that was provided to the agent. So it's going to use that. So the first thing is going to research the company, and here we are sending the company domain. So if we go to our company domain, so here we have our company domain. So we are passing the data of the domain. So if you go here, we have our domain. So what is the domain? Which is thevarsel.com. Then it's normalize the data. So here we are using our code node. So here we get the home page and also the about page. And after that, here we have our data, which we use the get HTTP to get the home page data, and also we use the get about to get the about data. And then we use our code node to stripe the HTML and also truncate it. So after that, the response is going to be sent back. So from here, the response is going to be sent back to this particular sub workflow. So that is why we have our page text like this. So the next thing is it loops again after reading the system message and also the user message. Then it's going to what? It's going to draft an opener. So this draft and opener, it takes the research summary, the campaign angle, and the first name. So this is the data that was coming on from the data that we passed. This is the campaign angle, the first name chain, and the research summary. So after the research summary, it's going to send it to the draft opener. So here we have our sub workflow. So this is our sub workflow. It's going to take that data that was sent to it, which is the research summary. You make sure to also like define your data, your input data in that particular sub workflow, so it knows the kind of input it's expecting. So here we have our research summary, the campaign angle, the first name. Then this is the data that was sent to it, and then we use our basic LLM to write a code opener. So the code opener is to say, James, I came across the Varsel platform. So it's just to write a opener message for the platform. Then after that, we have our update CRM. So here is going to update the CRM with the contact details, the research summary, and the opener draft. So here we have the data. So here these are the inputs, the contact ID, the research summary, and the opener draft. So once we do that, we go to our update CRM. Then we go this place. So here we can see it's patch. So it patched the contact details with the research summary, the life cycle, the opener draft. The opener draft was empty because we have our opener draft here. The data that was sent here, there was no data sent in this place. So that is why this particular data is coming as empty. So then the next part is the create follow-up task. So we want to create a follow-up task for that contact. So be able to know, so any team that was attached to this particular lead will be able to know the follow-up tasks to do for that particular contact that was saved. So here is a follow-up task, and these are the data, the inputs that was sent to it, the contact ID, the notes, and the due in days. That is the particular day this is going to due. So here is the input, and if we go to our create task workflow, inside our create task workflow, this is our sub workflow. You have to, like I said, you have to give it the same input that you are sending. You have to give it to the sub workflow so that it does not misplace any data. So that is the data that was passed there is what we are receiving here, the contact ID, the notes, and the due days. So after we've sent the data, then we use the HTTP to using the API HubSpot provided to create a task, which is post. Now we are sending the data, we have our authorization, we have our data, and we have our association. So why we are using this association is to what? We want to, because this particular task is associated to that particular contact. So we need the associate. The association is more of like a relationship between the task and the contact. So we want to assign a particular task to that contact. So we need the association. So inside the association, we have arrays, we have the tool, which is the contact ID, and we have the types. So in HubSpot, you are going to set the types. You have the association category, the HubSpot define, and the associate typed ID, which is 204. So you need to set this so that that particular task can be assigned to the contact. So then once that response is given, then you go back to the data. So here now, you can see we have our data back, sent back to the sub workflow that send the data. So you have the ID, you have the preview, and all of the rest. So basically, this is how the SDR agent is going to work. So basically, this is the module 1, and I'm going to continue working on this while I also share with you how I added some other details and some other tools to it. So let's go to the HubSpot platform, and I'm going to show you the contact that was created and the task. So so here is it. I'm going to go to company, and then go back to the contact. So let me just, okay, so this is the contact. You can see Jane Doe. This is the email, this is the campaign ID, the job title, which is the VP engineering, the last name, the first name, the agent status, the researched summary. So this is the data. So here I'm going to show us the details of the activities. So here we are going to go to the activities, and inside the activities here, you can see it's showing that what a follow-up task has been created for this particular contact. So after we've done that, I'm going to move to the task section, so we'll be able to see. So you can see. So here, this is the task that was created, and it said not started. The type of tasks to do, the priority is high, which are one of the data that we send to update for this particular contact. So basically, this is how this module works. Is basically to research a lead and then draft an opening statement for that particular lead to be able to send for the company, and then from there it moves to module 2. So here is the end of this particular module. I'm going to share the next module once I'm done and see how it goes. Bye, and thank you very much. Bye.